Robert Conrad was a star famous for his tough guy persona and ability to perform his own stunts. He was part of several films and long-running series, such as Wild Wild West and Baa Black Sheep. While he developed a large base of adoring fans, he was also known as a party animal. His drinking eventually caught up with him when it caused a severe car crash that left him and the other driver with permanent physical and mental scars. Keep watching to learn about Robert Conrad's tragic accident that preceded his death. The accident. Robert Conrad had a reputation for hard partying during his time on the Wild Wild West. It didn't keep him from succeeding on the show, but it did eventually get him into a tragic situation that would follow him to his death. Robert got into a car accident at the age of 73 on March 31, 2003. His 1995 Jaguar crossed the center line of Highway 4 and collided with Allan Burnett's 1990 Subaru. His blood alcohol level was above 0.22% at the time, which is nearly 3 times the legal limit of 0.08. He faced 2 felony charges, one for driving under the influence and another for driving with a blood alcohol concentration of over 0.08%. The original hearing was postponed for a month until June 10th. This gave Robert enough time to recover from the injuries he sustained. He pled guilty to both charges. On November 26, 2004, he was placed under 6 months of house arrest and 5 years of probation. He paid over $3,600 in fines and was also required to complete an alcohol counseling program and banned from visiting bars. Robert was released from his probation early. He served less than half of the mandated 5-year term, but a county judge ruled he no longer needed to be supervised. His lawyer said the case wouldn't be reopened because doing so would violate laws relating to double jeopardy. He was right because the ruling proved to be final. How it affected Robert. Robert suffered severe physical injuries from the accident. He required numerous surgeries and a physical therapy regimen. His appearance in court proved that the reports of the injuries were true. He had a cane on one arm and a sling on the other and said he was praying for the other driver. His lawyer, Jeffrey Tuttle, was one of the first to learn of his client's injuries. He received a letter from the Santa Clara Valley Medical Center saying Robert was partially paralyzed and sustained a head injury. He struggled to walk and had a limited range of motion in his arms. His wife, Lavelda, also weighed in on how the accident affected Robert. She said he also injured his spinal cord, had only 40% use of his left arm, was confined to a wheelchair, and had slipped into a depressive state. Mood changes were not the only neurological effects Robert experienced. His speech began to change, and he developed memory loss that left him with no recollection of the incident. These changes to his mind explain why he didn't take as many roles after the accident. How it affected the victim. Robert Conrad wasn't the only man who suffered after the tragic accident. The man in the car he crashed into was also permanently affected. Allan Burnett suffered a wide range of injuries. Once he was released from the hospital and allowed to recover at home, family members realized the extent of the damage. They said he broke his wrist, fractured his right leg, and shattered his femur, tibia, and fibula. The 2 felony counts against Robert weren't the only times that the Burnett family saw him in court. They also filed a civil suit against him and his production company, Black Sheep Productions. They sought damages and wanted compensation for lost earnings and medical expenses. The case was settled, but no details released. Kevin was eventually able to walk again, but he never fully recovered. He would seem normal one day, only to be in severe pain the next. He continued to suffer until his death at Mark Twain St. Joseph Hospital on July 27th. An autopsy showed his cause of death was perforated gastric ulcers. His family, including his father, Kevin Burnett, believed the accident indirectly caused his death. The stress of the trials and constant pain in his knee eventually became too much. Now that the criminal and personal charges are settled, the family doesn't want to take any further action. Burnett says their only hopes are they can get the message out there that drunk driving is a problem. Hey, if you're enjoying this video so far, make sure you give it a like and subscribe to Facts First if you haven't already. Robert Conrad's life and death. Conrad Robert Falk was born in Chicago on March 1, 1935, to parents Leonard and Jacqueline. He was a running back in high school and began his entertainment career singing in a trio at local hotels. He adopted the name Robert Conrad at a young age. He got tired of having to change his last name every time his mother married a new man, so he chose his own. His interest in acting began after he stood outside a theater to promote the 1956 film Giant. He majored in theater arts at Northwestern University. While there, he befriended Nick Adams, who got him a part in Juvenile Jungle in 1958. A variety of other small roles followed, including Bat Masterson, Maverick, and Sea Hunt. He also played Tom Lopaka in Hawaiian Hawaiian Eye, appeared in several episodes of 77 Sunset Strip, and was one of the youngest actors in the cast of the 1963 film Palm Springs Weekend. When Hawaiian Eye ended in 1963, Robert was playing Pretty Boy Floyd in the film Young Dillinger. His agent got him an audition for the Wild Wild West, and it quickly became Robert's most famous role. He played Agent James West. The show ran for 4 seasons and over 100 episodes, from September 1965 to April 1969. He also played Major Greg Pappy Boyington in the period drama Baa Baa Black Sheep, also known as Black Sheep Squadron, which ran from 1976 to 78. Politicians sought to lessen the amount of violence on TV after the assassinations of Robert Kennedy and Martin Luther King Jr. in 1968. This was a major factor in Wild Wild West's cancellation, despite it holding a 33% audience share in its final season. Baa Baa Black Sheep was also canceled for being too violent. One of his first major stunt jobs was as Detective Lopaka on Hawaiian Eye. He was able to safely fall backward off of his horse, establishing himself as a talented stuntman. He claims executives would hire him whenever there was a speaking role associated with a stunt because, quote, "you got 2 for the price of 1. Robert always claimed to do all of his own stunts. While this was often true, Gene Scott Freese found out in his 2014 book, Hollywood Stunt Performers, that he was occasionally replaced by other stuntmen. They would never wear his wardrobe to keep the illusion alive. A dangerous stunt almost took Robert's life. He jumped from a balcony and missed the chandelier he was supposed to jump onto, landing on the concrete floor. He ended up with a skull fracture and concussion. He realized how potentially deadly the event was and noted, "I almost ate the cookie, but I didn't." Robert's stunt work was so well received he was inducted into the Stuntman's Hall of Fame. He's one of only a handful of actors to receive this honor. He also starred in several commercials for Ever-Ready batteries. In each one, he would perform a vigorous activity like boxing, put a battery on his shoulder, and say some variation of the catchphrase, "I dare you to knock this off." Robert retired from acting after the 2003 accident, but spent 5 years as the host of the PM show with Robert Conrad on CRN Digital Talk Radio. His production company released a few successful movies, and he was also able to spend the last years of his life enjoying the fruits of his labor and seeing his shows find a new audience. He loved the fact that the Wild Wild West lives on in syndication. It's gained a cult following with fans who weren't born when it aired. What he didn't love was the 1999 movie based on the show starring Will Smith. He called the remake horrible and pathetic and accepted its Razzie Award. Robert Conrad died of heart failure in Hawaii on February 8, 2020, at the age of 84. He's survived by his children and 18 grandchildren. He brought a memorable presence to whatever he did, whether it was stunt work, TV, films, or commercials. A tragic mistake left him paralyzed and affected his memory, leaving him unable to recreate that same magic before his death. Now it's time to hear from you. Are you one of the fans who watched the Wild Wild West after it entered syndication? Let us know in the comment section below. And before you go, make sure to give this video a like and subscribe to Facts First if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content.